Because when you look and you say it's all perfect, the problem is it's so impersonal. Somebody falls down in front of you and you say, karma. See, there's no warmth to it. But if you come down into your human heart, the pain is unbearable. Because there is so much suffering everywhere.
Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 402. Hope you're amazing as always and life is treating you beautiful. Do you know what? Today's episode's a little different, and if you are a regular listener to Mindset by Design, which I hope you are, this is a 402nd episode, come on! So I really hope you are, and you know that Mindset by Design and my whole philosophy is a little bit different from the norm, meaning it's a blend of neuroscience, neuro-linguistic programming, which I'm one of the world-class experts at. It's a combination of behavioral psychology, sales, marketing, influence, persuasion, and an underlying factor of consciousness, right? So I've played Ram Dass and lots of other people many years. You know, I've followed Ram Dass since he was alive, for maybe way over a decade, maybe 10 or 15 years. And he's got a lot of wisdom. If you don't know Ram Dass, quick lesson. He was a Harvard professor, and then he got kicked out of Harvard with Timothy Leary for doing lots of LSD back in the day. Then he went to India and connected with Neem Karoli Baba, who was a guru. If you want to use that word, it's kind of been butchered these days, right? But that's what he is. And he's one of the first people to bring all of this information, the Eastern philosophy, back to the West. And that's what I love about his stuff, because it's a psychological aspect. He grew up around money, so he sees that side of the world. He was ultra famous, so you can explain that side of the world. And he comes from deep philosophical, from Hindi, from Buddhism, from all of these different religions or spirituality practices. So he gives an awesome blend. I've listened to thousands of hours of him over the years, and I want to share a bit with you today. But today's episode's a little deep. It's a little deep. So get your cup of tea, your coffee, wherever you're listening to this. If you're on that treadmill, driving to work, coming back, whatever you are, right, or building your business, then it's time to go a little bit deep. And so let's put the world to one side a second. The way to look at this perspective is there is two universes or two worlds or two dimensions. There's infinite dimensions, I get it, but there's two dimensions that we really live in, and I don't know which side of this coin that you're on, right? You might be coming here for, Andy, I want tactics, I want strategies, I want all of this stuff. Well, cool, you've got 401 episodes to bounce around, and you've got links, which you should be going to, andymurphy.online. Go and check all the latest and greatest things that are happening on there. We're launching the 8-Figure Thinker Business Brain University again. Yes, it's got a new title, Business Brain University, but that's getting released again as we speak, and it should be going live by the 23rd of February 2023, so next week. So go and check that out. It's genuinely amazing. That's why I'm re-releasing it, because I've been asked. So go and check that out. But besides all that, that's all your tactics and strategies that you will blow your mind and take your game to a level that you didn't even know existed. That's a guarantee. Go and check it out. For now, what we got to understand is that there's the mechanical world, which is our brain, our nervous system, how we respond, our behavior, how we live in this three-dimensional reality, how we do sales, how we do physical, mental performance, right? All of that stuff. But there's also another thing that's going on. Do you know what I mean? Now, let's go down the woo-woo just for a second. Come with me for a second. But we've all experienced this in life, and we've all experienced this in entrepreneurism especially. And I'm going to water it down to the most basic fundamentals that you can get your head around if this is all new to you. I'm sure it's not if you're a regular listener. You know, you're way down the rabbit hole with me. Whether it's quantum physics, where we're dealing with harmonics and vibration, consciousness, or we're dealing with neuroscience and NLP, doesn't matter really where you want to play it. It doesn't matter. It's all a belief system that gets us to the same result. But if we talk about harmonics and universal frequency, I really believe this is the secret sauce to true success, right? There's levels of consciousness. There's levels of, let's just use consciousness, or use vibration, or use harmonics, whatever word makes you happy. But look at it this way, let's put it into layman's terms, right? If that's even a word anymore, layman's terms, basic terms, whatever. If you are doing shitty things in your life, and you're hanging around with shitty people, you're doing stupid things, you're going against your intuition, you're eating the wrong food, you're not exercising, you are watching just BS on the TV, right? If you're reading horror films, if you're doing all of this stuff, then that is a harmonic. It's a frequency, a vibration. And what happens when we are living in that space? We all know. Think about it, right? Think about it. What happens? Yeah, more shit comes, doesn't it? Again and again and again and again. That's what happens. But we've all had those moments. It could have been for an hour, a day, a week, a year, or the past 35 years, whatever. But we know if we're living in authenticity, if we're living in alignment, meaning we want to do stuff, we're actually helping people, we're eating right, we're thinking right, we're watching the right things, we're listening to the Mindset by Design Peak Performance Show. What else are we doing? We're hanging around with the right people. You get what I mean? We're actually doing something and it feels smooth. Do you know that feeling? It feels easy, it feels smooth. What happens? Oh, things come together. Synchronicity happens. People appear. Ideas appear. Life just seems way easier, doesn't it? Well, that is a vibration, a harmonic. And if you understand that is up or down, left or right, it's the opposites. And so what I want you to understand is if we can play in that other reality, that other way of thinking, feeling and acting, that other way of experiencing your life in the earth, right, that you're living in right now, then it's like a different world, right? Do we have to play in both worlds? Of course we got to play in both worlds, right? And what you perceive as bad, there's a whole different conversation, but what you perceive as bad is never bad. It's duality, right? But let's not go down that path. Let's just talk about this other thing, life, world. What Tesla said, right? Back in the day, not the car, the guy, 3, 6, and 9. That's a frequency. And he also said you can connect to this thing, like this bubble, this energy that is all around us. It's going through us and in us. And if we can live in this way, in this belief system, from what I've seen from thousands and thousands of people, from the best people in the world, from billionaires to whoever, right? From what I've seen in my own life, and I know you agree with this, life just becomes like a kind of a computer game. It becomes like synchronistic. Incredible, mind-blowing things happen. People appear, right? Ideas appear. Projects appear. Opportunities appear. And so that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. So I want you to look from this perspective because it's going to make this episode way, way easier for you to get your head around, okay? So if everything happens for a reason, there might be a reason that you're listening to this today. So we're going to jump into the show right now and let's go and play. I do my thing, jump in, 2 cents worth. Oh, and we've got so many interviews lined up for March. As I say, we're moving to 400, so I want to bring all the interviews back. So I've got, I think I've got 10 already booked. All badasses, all rock stars, all in the digital entrepreneurial space. And I'm pumped really to get to know them because they're all they're all multi-millionaires. So not that that's a big thing, whatever, it's about money, but it means that they've kind of thinking, feeling, and behaving a certain way, and we want to model those experiences and the way they see the world and perform. That's what the show's about, right? Mindset by Design, the peak performance show. So we're going to jump into it. So make sure that you're heading over to andymurphy.online for the latest and greatest stuff, and that's it. Let's jump in. I will see you at the end of the show.
One of the things that has changed in me is that I have begun to fall in love with the universe. And it's hard to talk about that. Let me read to you two poems. This first one is by a Buddhist monk named Thich Nhat Hanh. Very beautiful monk. I won't read the whole thing. I am a frog swimming happily in the clear water of a pond. I am also the grass snake who, approaching in silence, feeds itself on the frog. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. I am also the merchant of arms, selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am the 12-year-old girl, refugee on a small boat, who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. I am also the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom in all walks of life. My pain is like a river of tears, so full it fills up all the 4 oceans. Please call me by my correct names, so that I can hear at the same time all my cries and my laughs, so that I could see that my joy and pain are but one. Please call me by my correct names, so that I could become awake, so the door of my heart be left open, the door of compassion. All my names. The quality of love has no boundaries. There's no other in love. There is us at one level, and at the deeper level there is only I. We are merged in love. Call me by my true name.
Okay, crew, let me jump in there. That made me laugh because, this is deeper than I remember this clip, right? It's heavy. I've also cut the second poem out, so if you're going to look for that, it's not there because it goes even way deeper. And remember, there's a lot of different people listening to this show, so I want to cater it for everyone, not just deep down the rabbit hole people. But what he's saying there, just to give a little iteration, is that in this universal bubble of consciousness, right? We call that the universe, or we call that consciousness, or we call that whatever the hell you want to call it. It makes no difference, right? But if we're inside of it rather than being outside of it, looking in, like classical religion talks about, right? It talks about what? Being separate from God, if you want to use that word, or the universe, or whatever, right? We're separate from it. No, we're not, man. We're inside of it. And if we forget the word religion and we forget the word God, forget it, man. It's nothing like that. Let's use the man-made words. Let's understand that we're inside of something. Well, that means all of the chaoses, all of the pain, all the suffering, but all of the awesome stuff is too. All of the happiness, the joy, right? Also the cars, the houses, right? Money. All of those things are inside of this same bubble. It's like we're in the middle of a balloon expanding. And this thing's expanding, and there's more things in there, and this bubble, this balloon is infinite, right? So all of the highs and the lows in your life, well, they're not good or bad. They're just inside this bubble. So if you can get your head around that, right, that's the first concept. You might want to go back, listen to that again, and then come back to listen to what I just said. But then he's talking about say my name, right, so I can hear you. Well, let's interpret that a different way for you. Let's understand that that's a harmonic, right? And you've probably all seen it's semantics. I think that's the correct word. But what that is, we've all seen iron filings on a blackboard, and they either change the sound frequency or they put like a violin bow on it, which changes the sound frequency. And you've probably seen that, right? If not, go and look it up. But it's literally the structure of these iron filings. It's insane. They just completely radically change, like DNA code. They change into different three-dimensional structures. It's madness, right? So if you look at harmonics, or saying the name, right, as harmonics, frequency, vibration, whatever you want to call it, it's like the iron filings with sound waves. Same thing. So if you understand that, then you understand how powerful your words are. You understand how powerful your feelings are. And you understand how powerful it is to be in peak performance all the time, and to live inside of this bubble, and to understand that duality, or good things and bad things, isn't really good and bad things. It's just where you are on that harmonic, the frequency, like the sound waves. And it's just like, it's life, because it's all inside of this balloon. Does that make sense? Clear as mud? Well, that's why I said, right, this is a heavy episode. If you want to go back for some more, go back to 400. Go and check me and stuff out. It's awesome, right? But this episode, if you get your head around this, it's a game changer.
There are no boundaries. There are no separatenesses. And then as that one starts to come into form as separate, you look at the separate forms it has taken with a quality of awe and wonder when you're looking from there. When you're looking from the point between what's called the form and the formless, right at the edge, and you look down at form, or out at form, or up at form, there's no direction. You look at form, you see the absolute awful beauty of form. And you see, as Plato talks about it, the law that you appreciate as what you call God oftentimes is just all form in law. It's all lawfully related. It's called the Tao in Chinese, the way of things. It's the way in which all forms are related to all other forms. And you look and you see it's perfect. You can look in physics or chemistry or astronomy or astrology or psychology or music, or wherever you look, you begin to see that forms are related all to all other forms, all in lawful ways. It gets interesting when you get down to quarks or things like that, but everything above that, it looks pretty well. And there is an interesting term. When you look at the way in which those things are all lawfully related, you say, it's perfect. My guru in India used to say to me, Ramdas, don't you see it's all perfect? I'd say, perfect? Perfect? What about Bangladesh? What about Africa? What about tyranny? What about violence? What about greed? He said, don't you see it's all perfect? Can't you step back for a moment from your humanity to see the way of things? Can't you see the way it's all lawfully unfolding? The question is, have you the courage to see what you're seeing? Or does it seem to take away your humanity? Because when you look and you say it's all perfect, The problem is it's so impersonal. Somebody falls down in front of you and you say, karma. See, there's no warmth to it. But if you come down into your human heart, the pain is unbearable. Because there is so much suffering everywhere. And you look and there's rape, and there's child molestation, and there's ecological insensitivity, and there's tyranny, and there's terrorism, and there's... Which one is it first? Starvation, the homeless. Who is it? Where does your heart go first? And what most people do is they close their heart down and they armor it to protect it from the immense amount of suffering. They armor it with their mind, with thoughts, with a web or a net or a veil of thought that armors the heart so that they don't get hurt and overwhelmed by the immensity of the suffering. Because you know how when your child hurts, you give anything. And the quality of the heart is, the heart has no boundaries. My heart goes out to you is the expression. The heart will give. The heart doesn't know boundaries. The mind knows the boundaries. The heart says, here, take my automobile, take my apartment, take anything. And the mind saying, now wait a minute, be reasonable. And there is an interesting dialogue that goes on within us. And so this armoring protects not only our hearts from the amount of suffering outside, but it protects our separateness from our heart, which would give away our separateness. It would give away everything. Give away everything. And so the interesting question is, how do you keep your heart open in hell?
So let's jump in there, crew, because I told you it's heavy, right? It's or is it? You know, that's where we're going with it. Is it heavy? Is it not? It depends on your perspective. But let's look at that for a second. All of that. So let's start with the heart. What he's talking about is not your literal beating heart, right? What he's talking about is your spiritual heart, right? And what that means is the feeling of love. Which sounds like, what the hell are you talking about, Andy? Love. It's like, yeah, I get it, but what the heck's that got to do with making millions of dollars in performance? I get it too. Well, if we look at David Hawkins' frequency of consciousness, right, which I'm sure you're familiar with. If you're not, come on, catch up. This is yeah, just anyway, I'm not going to go into all that. I've done episodes on this. I've taught this. And I've also, I know guys who are earning $10-20 million a year who are friends of mine who live by this frequency chart, right? This the scale of consciousness. And when we start to understand that, actually love is a high frequency. And when we can come from neuroscience and we understand that another perspective is from the heart is actually a heart brain. This is the way I describe it, right? So a heart brain, but it has a actual memory. It has neurotransmitters. It remembers things that your heart does. And it is actually a function that communicates with the head brain and the rest of the body. And if we level off the heart frequency, this is neuroscience. If we put an ECG scanner on and we level off the heart frequency by giving it the correct emotion, love, joy, all these things, then it actually communicates with the brain that we are safe, and that allows you to be highly intuitive. It allows you to make rapid decision making. It allows you to live a very different life because you're not reacting from the fight or flight response, right? So we can come from the spiritual heart, we can look at from love, right? Or we can actually talk about neuroscience. Doesn't matter, whatever. As I said before, right? What belief or perspective do you want to live in? You think this is absolute woo-woo and nonsense? Well, yeah, if you believe that, then it is. You might want to really take this on in your life, and guess what? Your life might change. That's the point in the way we perceive reality. There is no fixed construct. We live in a holographic reality, and the reality comes from, it's like a projector from how our brain is wired, and that we project that out through our filter system to give us our view of the world, right? And our view of the world is only very limited. It's extremely limited. If 5 of us went out for dinner, right? We all had a good night, and maybe we had a good night, but 5 of us that went out for dinner, and I interviewed everyone 2 weeks later. Everyone would have a radically different experience, right, of that night. And so what that shows you is reality is really up to you. Your perception equals reality, your reality. So whether you think this is nonsense, whether you think it's real, whether it's interesting, but whatever, if it's like mind-blowingly important, it doesn't matter. This is what's coming out, right? So your perspective is your reality.
And what does it mean to be in love with the world? And what does it mean in action? What do you do? The answer lies again in the statement, at least the answer that I have found thus far, that there's nowhere to stand. That if you stand only in your humanity, it's unbearable. If you stand in the area of perfection, it's impersonal. If you get them both going at once, it is the root of what I understand true compassion to be about. It is something where, unlike Job, which questions God at some point, you do what you do because your human heart hurts and you want to do what you can to relieve the suffering of the people you love. And at the same moment, there's not a flicker in you as to it is all as it must be. I work with AIDS patients now. I do a lot of work with AIDS patients. And a fellow calls me, and he just found he has AIDS, and he was a law student, and all of his plans have now gone awry, and his whole life has changed, and he's frightened, and my heart, my human heart, cries with him. And so he hears there's a fellow human heart that's empathizing with him. At the same moment, there's another part of me that's just looking at the universe as it is and saying, yes, and this too, and this too. He has a new curriculum now. This is heavy work for his soul. He's going to do new work in terms of awakening. Because when you look at individuals from the level of soul or awareness or spiritual entityness, you see the entire earth plane and all the personality and all the physical things and the death and sickness and illness and all of it. You see it all as the curriculum of the soul. When you look at it from the personality point of view, it's horrible. And that seems so unfair, and suffering seems so cruel. And for you to hear the term, suffering is grace, not that you would ask for it, but that when it comes your way, you work with it. You work with it as part of your spiritual journey of awakening. Because the only reason anybody suffers is because of the clinging of their mind. Starvation is just a certain set of pangs. The fact that you suffer when you starve is because of the mind's identification with the separateness.
Now, you might be going, Andy, what are you talking about? What is he talking about? Starvation and the mind. What are you talking about? If you're starving, you're gonna die. Well, yeah, true, in the end. But look at it another way, right? It's about intention and perception. So what's the latest and greatest fad? Not that it's the latest and greatest, but what do people do more than often now for growth hormone production, digestion, weight loss? Fasting, right? Fasting. People fast. I fast, Several times a week I do like 16-hour fasts. What does that mean? That means you don't eat from about 7 and you go right through till about lunch the next day. And you know what? Just water. I know people that do 3-day fast, water fast. I've known someone who's done a 21-day fast when I was living in Bali. So isn't that starving? Well, no, because the intention behind it is different. So if you didn't have food for 17 days or 21 days like this person, and wouldn't that be starving? Yeah, but they intentionally did it to completely reset themselves, right? Because they actually had something wrong with them, illness. So they reset themselves and they healed themselves. So look at that as a perception. But isn't that the same as we're going through business journey? We could look at something going wrong as a disaster, right? But we can also look at it another way, giving it, no, that thing didn't happen because it wasn't supposed to happen, because the next thing is going to be better. And if I had taken that, then I wouldn't be able to do this, right? So be careful, a classic saying, but be careful what you say yes to, because you're saying what? You got it. No to something else. Be careful what you say no to, because you're saying yes to something else. And if we only have so much time, effort, and energy, we have a finite amount of it, we have to be so careful of what we are putting our energy, or what I call our currency, time, effort, and energy, that we can never get back, right? That energy or currency, we have to be so careful of what we invest it in, right? Because we want an ROI. This is one of my systems, right? So we want an ROI, a return on that investment. So we best be careful. So when we start looking at what Ram Dass is saying, right, then it all makes sense when we relate it to business.
When Ramana Maharshi, the great saint in India, was dying, and his devotees were crying, Bhagwan, Bhagwan, don't leave us, he said, don't be silly, where could I go? I'm just dropping my body, it's no big deal. When you have that level of awareness, then the whole meaning of suffering changes. And all suffering is showing you is where your mind is still clinging. To pull your awareness back from the time-binding nature of mind allows you to be fully here. To be fully here. Am I happy? Yes, I'm happy. I'm happy because it's spring. I'm happy because people are having babies that are bringing joy into their lives. I'm happy because flowers are blooming. I'm happy for a myriad reasons. Am I sad? Yes, I am sad. Because every 45 seconds, a child is dying needlessly from hunger. I'm sad because there is so much inhumanity among humans to each other and to other species. I am sad because there's so much fear. In this moment, I am both happy and sad. As long as you try to stay in the world of polarities, happy, sad, dark, light, positive, negative, good, evil, you cannot experience the richness of the moment. The richness of the moment is the one that lies just behind the two.
And you might again be going, Andy, yeah, but that's crazy talk. That's how is someone supposed to do that? Well, his most famous book that's actually sitting behind me, is Be Here Now. Right? Eckhart Tolle got exceptionally famous. What did he call it? The power of now. Where do you think he got that concept from? You got it, right? So look at it this other way, and this is the last thing I'll leave you with today on. You might want to listen to this one again. If you, I think you should listen to it again and share it with someone who might be going through some crazy stuff right now. So ask yourself this question, right? Especially if you're stressing out over something right now. In this moment, is everything perfect? You might be going, Andy, no, it's not. I've got to pay this bill. This person let me down. It's chaos. I'm ill. This has happened. What happened? Right. I understand all those things. But that's the future and the past. In this moment, as you breathe and focus all your attention, all your awareness on the sound of my voice right here, right now, and you take a big, deep breath and allow yourself to just relax. Is everything perfect? But what about the future, the past? I got to do this next. No. In this moment, with that breath, listen to the sound of my voice right here, right now, as you breathe. Is everything everything perfect? The answer is always yes. Now that's superpower. It's a superpower to be able to do this. But that's what life is, right? And if we can learn mind mastery of that skill, it makes life way, way easier, right? Still chaos going on outside, but we can be still. And that means the feeling is good. Does that make sense? So, crew, well done. You came on a journey with me today. I could keep going on for hours and hours and hours. This is part of peak performance with what I do, right? It's part of peak performance. And whatever level entrepreneur you are, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing in your life, it doesn't matter. This podcast is not just for entrepreneurs, but I work with and my thing is entrepreneurs. Why? Because I really believe entrepreneurs are the people that are going to change the world and the economy. So that's my mission, to make sure that I can develop the best entrepreneurs on the planet. And, so head over to andymurphy.online, see the latest and greatest stuff. And yeah, please review this, please share this, and please keep kicking ass. Until the next time, much, much love. Keep doing your thing. And oh yeah, one more thing. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.